So we're not going to multiply it all the way out, but I do want to write down the repeated factors here. X plus 7 squared is the same as x plus 7 times x plus 7. 2x plus 1 didn't have an exponent, so we just bring that down. X minus 4 was to the third, so that means we multiply it by itself 3 times. Okay? Again, we're not multiplying this all out. We don't need to multiply it out. I'm just trying to show you one more time how the multiplicity is what it is. All right, so once we have it it is in factored form. Once it's in factored form, you take your factor and set it equal to 0 and solve for x. So x plus 7, we set equal to 0, solve for x, so we subtract 7 from both sides. We get x equals negative 7. So negative 7 is one of the zeros of our function. How many times is it one of our zeros? 2, because we've got another one right here. So that means it has multiplicity 2. When it has even multiplicity, it's going to touch the x-axis, or you may see the terminology that it bounces. By bouncing, it means the function's coming down, it touches, and then it returns back in the direction that it was going in. So it doesn't actually cross, it's going to bounce off of the x-axis. The x-axis right here. Just a little visual there. Okay? We've got another one. We've got 2x plus 1 here equal to 0. So we subtract 1 from both sides. So 2x is equal to negative 1. Then we divide by 2. So x is equal to negative 1/2. That is another 0 of this function. It's not repeated. Oh, no, not 0. No, it's not repeated. It only shows up once. It has multiplicity 1. Okay, and then the last one, we've got x minus 4 equal to 0. So we add 4 to both sides. So x equals 4. That is our third 0. But it was repeated 3 times. So it has multiplicity 3. Both of these, the effect is going to be that it crosses the x-axis because they have odd multiplicity. Not that the 0 itself is odd, it's that its multiplicity is odd. So if it crosses the x-axis, then that 0, whatever's going on here with that polynomial, it's going to cross the x-axis. Okay, questions about that? Example B is not in factored form. B is not in factored form, so we are going to put it in factored form. We need to do a little factoring. What's the first thing you always look for when you factor? 3 letters. Starts with a G. Greatest common factor, GCF. We look for the GCF first. Okay, so what do these 3 terms all have in common? They have an x, right? But more than x, they all at least have 2 x's. Now, if you struggle with figuring out what goes in the parentheses, here's how you can look at it. When you're factoring out a GCF, it's essentially like you're dividing each term by that GCF. So x to the 4th divided by x squared, you apply your exponent rules with division, so you subtract. Or you can look at it as I have taken 2 x's out of 4 x's, so I have 2 of them left. Okay, the next term, minus 2 x cubed divided by x squared leaves us with just 1 x to the 1st. And then we take out the x squared out of that last term, so we're just left with the 8. We got to factor that trinomial. Two sets of parentheses. X times x gives us x squared. Now, this one's pretty easy because we're just dealing with 8 and 2. But we go to the very end. And the question is, what two numbers multiply to give us 8 and add to give us 2? What two numbers multiply to give us 8 and add to give us 2? One of those numbers is negative. How do I know that? The 8 is negative. Okay, so one's going to be a positive, one's going to be a negative. So 4 and 2, negative 4 plus 2. Now, I realize that that is the difficult part of factoring. Here is something you can do to help yourself. You take that last number, you put it in your y equals negative 8 divided by x. Okay, you take the last number, you divide it by x. You go to the table. You're looking for whole numbers. Okay, you're looking for whole numbers here. That means that they are factors. So 1 and negative 8, 2 and negative 4, 4 and negative 2, etc., etc. So then you're looking for, well, if I add these together, do I get negative 2? 1 plus negative 8, not negative 2. 2 plus negative 4, that's negative 2. So there's your factors, positive 2, negative 4. It does the hard work for you. Okay, so now we are in fully factored form. We can set our factors equal to 0. So we've got x squared is equal to 0. So what does x have to be equal to? What number squared is 0? 0. So 0 is our 0, and it has multiplicity 2 because that came from x squared. We could have broken that down into x times x, so we have x equals 0 and x equals 0. So we have it twice. So that's going to touch/bounce. I want you to write down both words just so that you continue to remember, because I don't know which terminology they're going to use. It could be either one. X plus 2 is equal to 0. So subtract 2 from both sides. X equals negative 2 is a 0. That factor was just listed once. So it has multiplicity 1, so it crosses. X minus 4 is equal to 0. Add 4 to both sides. X is equal to 4. It was only listed once, so it has multiplicity 1. So it's going to cross. All right, now we're going to go backwards. Any questions about A or B before we proceed? All right, let's look at C. A polynomial has a 0 at negative 6 with multiplicity 2 and a 0 at 2 with multiplicity 1. Write a polynomial function in standard form that could represent this function. Okay, so what we're given is we're given the information in the table. We got to come up with that equation. So let's go through our steps. If let's see, our first 0 is negative 6. So let's compare that to negative 2 up here. Where did the negative 2 come from? X plus 2 was the factor. We changed the sign. So we've got x plus 6. It had multiplicity 2. So that means it shows up twice. 2 is another 0. So let's compare that to 4. They're both positive numbers, right? So where did the 4 come from? The 4 came from x minus 4. So in our problem, we're going to have x minus 2. Okay, so that takes care of all of our zeros. Negative 6 multiplicity 2, 2 multiplicity 1. Write it in standard form. This is factored form. Okay, that's factored form. So that means we've got to multiply this out. Start by FOILing the last 2. X plus 6 times x minus 2. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times negative 2